I guess technically either one could, but I don't want to jump ahead. So I'll get a chance to talk to those, and that'd be for a 4-year term. So the only one we'll jump ahead on is Tom Willett. The airport board appointment, Michael Portwood was the one that was recommended. So we need a motion to appoint him.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. The extension board, we have 2 reappointments. The extension board appointments are 3-year appointments. So they can serve 3 terms according to our ordinance.
Motion to reappoint both.
Second.
Okay, that's Bethany Dillon and Stephen Smith. Did you get a second too? All in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. Just talk to Glenn about the library appointment. And Glenn, you can tell us where we are, which is
I
where we
don't
were.
think you've received anything yet, have you, Mr. Mills?
Haven't gotten anything back to Frankfurt.
I didn't think, because I know you were going to send me a copy, so I don't think there's any movement on that at this point.
Okay. Do you have anything, Mr. Mills, that you want to? Okay.
Not to add, so that fix it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Here comes Mr. Pritchard.
Do what? Oh. Now we got a quorum.
Good morning.
All right, Bill, you can leave now.
Parks and Rec appointment.
Parks and Board,
right.
we didn't have a quorum when Bill left. And that, Tom, is for Tom Willett, who's a reappointment for a 4-year term. We need a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. Animal control are too short on in employees, and have 2 recommendations. Melanie Kelb, K-E-L-B, and Brooke Woods, and they're really need to replace these people. They're that short, and they've run a background check on them, and there doesn't appear to be any problems with either one on the background check. So need a motion, if that's the pleasure of the court, to hire those 2 people. Deal.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. And I told Kathy they could start Friday if they wanted to, so they need them at that. Tom had mentioned to me about changing the personnel policy to start 2-week vacations instead of the first 3 years, that when they are hired, that they would have the 2-week vacation. Well, this goes back to 2008, and when we had the downturn in the economy, we changed that. And as I told Tom, I wanted to wait till after the election. Somebody wouldn't think it was some kind of an election move to do it. And we would need, I've asked Glenn, I've given him some notes to write, to put the ordinance together, changing the,
We just changed that since I've been here like a year or 2 ago.
yeah, that was,
Like 08.
We started that process back in '08. It was, I think the feeling of the court was because as Judge mentioned, the economic downturn, we started modifying, so
That's-
I'll make that
yeah,
change.
yeah.
Get it
But,
distributed out.
and we can have first reading at the next meeting, and second reading, it's an ordinance, has to be amended. So, Tom, I appreciate you bringing that up, and that'll be done.
Is it an ordinance change?
It's an ordinance, it's amending the ordinance for
Just an
personnel policy ordinance.
I think the point was that since the economy has rebounded some,
Yeah.
we've restored some of those benefits that we were forced to cut. And this restores another one of those that we had taken away, but we're now in a position to bring back.
This was something you voted for 20 months.
Yeah, well, so I think everybody's on board with it. Yeah.
Fire. And Judge, this is fire and EMS, right?
What?
This is who this affects, is fire and EMS?
Affects everybody.
Affects everybody?
All the
Yeah.
24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah,
All the
everybody.
24 hour.
Yeah, it affects every employee. The people that are on a 35-hour week will get 70 hours vacation, and 24-hour people would get, I believe, instead of getting 12 hours, 144. So it affects every employee, not
Okay.
just those, affects everybody. It basically just goes back to the way it was.
Right.
And we have second reading on the budget amendment.
Can I ask a real quick question
Yeah.
about that, though? Well, never mind, go ahead. Never mind.
This, we just had we typed that wrong, so too.
This is ordinance number 14-04, an ordinance relating to the annual budget and amendment thereof. Whereas the County of Scott has realized unbudgeted receipts from account 01-4901, cash in bank. Be it ordained by the fiscal court of Scott County, Section 1, the budget for the fiscal year 2014-2015 is amended to increase the receipts of the road fund by $4 million to include unbudgeted receipts from, and then it has 3 account numbers there. We have a surplus from a prior year, transfer out, transfer in, same figures, $4 million. The increase goes to road materials and capital outlay, $500,000 and $3.5 million respectively. Section 2, the amounts adjusting the receipt and expenditure accounts in Section 1 are for governmental purposes. And it has approved by the fiscal court this 14th day. We actually are going to approve it today as to form and classification and adopt it today.
Motion to approve it. Second. Any questions for the public? That's to pay for the maintenance building, provided we get into that much of it before June 30th. And also, the $500,000 for the road is the extra money that we got the grant from the state for that was not budgeted. It was unanticipated. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous.
George, the road that's been put through the park out there is pretty nice. It's near completion and whatnot.
Well,
I think
it's-
we got a final coat to go, but we're getting a lot of comments about it. It's
Yeah,
really
it-
nice for those that haven't been out there to see it.
Looks great.
Greg
yeah.
Cross, check it out. It's nice.
It's not gonna be open till next spring, though.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, 'cause we gotta put the
You can
final
see it
coat.
from 227, I
Yeah,
promise you.
yeah.
But it's nice.
But Tom Johnson's here, and they have worked hard to revamp the ethics ordinance. And Glenn, if you'll read, I guess, the summary, and everybody's had a copy of it, and then if there's any questions, Tom, who's chairperson of the ethics committee, could answer those questions.
Now, before I begin, let me commend Tom and the entire commission. They worked, gosh, over several months, wasn't it, Tom, to go over each and every line, I might add, of the existing ordinance. And what they have done, Tom can tell you much, much better than I. I only attended 1 or 2 meetings, as I best remember, but they basically went over each one of these and streamlined some of the things that were somewhat outdated. This was first adopted, I guess, back in 1994, I suppose, but
Back this far, yeah.
yeah. Nonetheless, let me read the summary, and Mr. Johnson's here. He can explain it much better than I can. This is called an amendment to an ordinance relating to the establishment of a code of ethics for elected and appointed county officials and employees or candidates for public office in Scott County, Kentucky. The first part says, whereas Scott County Fiscal Court is authority pursuant to KRS Chapter 65 to enact an ordinance establishing a code of ethics to guide the conduct of elected and appointed officers and employees of Scott County. Whereas public office and employment are a public trust, and government has a duty to both provide their citizens with standards by which they may determine whether public duties are being faithfully performed, and to apprise their officers and employees of the behavior which is expected of them while conducting their public duties. Whereas it is the purpose of this ordinance to provide a method of assuring that standards of ethical conduct for local government officers and employees shall be clear, consistent, and uniform in their application, and to provide local officers and employees with advice and information concerning possible conflicts of interest which might arise in the conduct of their public duties. And then what follows would be the ordinance itself.
Everybody's had a copy of that, and is there any questions, Bill?
I don't recall getting a copy of it. Has everybody else got their copies? I didn't.
Didn't you send them on the,
I don't know if I did or Tom did. I'm not sure. I have some.
Could we?
Well, you know what,
could we-
I did not mail those out, and that may be my,
I thought,
I
I thought.
I don't
that-
have one.
Oh, well,
Could we
I
wait
thought you
maybe
did.
till next meeting to do that? Give us time to look at it?
Will we have 2 formal meetings next month?
This is just first reading, so.
Well, we could have first reading, and still, second reading would, you'd have it ahead of time.
Okay.
you know.
you've got a meeting on the 12th of December.
We got 2 meetings,
Yeah,
but,
two meetings.
first reading would not, if it was something that, I thought everybody had gotten a copy, I apologize. Tom,
I did not send them out,
yeah,
that may be my fault.
well, matter whose fault, I don't think it's just an oversight.
Right.
Let's go ahead
Maybe.
and approve first reading, and then if there's any changes, we can change them on second reading,
Oh,
can't we?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I assume Tom can walk us through.
Yeah, Tom, you might
Content.
walk us through what changes were, and
Be happy to. What prompted this was the fact that, as we hit this past election cycle, there was like 54 candidates that had filed. And we noticed a lot of questions and comments coming from candidates that would get phone calls and say, I don't understand this, we don't understand that. You know, the requirement for the Ethics Committee, or the Ethics Commission, is that we send out an annual statement. Every year, we actually don't send it out, every year an annual statement is filed. In case there's a conflict of interest between any of the candidates and their positions within the county. Candidates and the elected officials have 21 days from the date of filing to have this ordinance, or the statement of financial disclosure, returned to the Ethics Commission. Now, needless to say, and I've got the stats if you want to see them, of that, 21 days can start in November when the first filing date starts and can go all the way into January. 21 days, the new statement of financial disclosure should be received by the Ethics Commission, and many of them, well, we got maybe 25%, 28% of those people, many elected officials that have done this for years, received on time. So then you begin going through the ordinance, and it was very time consuming. I mean, we start this process in, well, Stacy, sometimes in normal years, we send them out in April. And we're going all the way into August trying to get these things in. There's supposed to be statutes that say if a person doesn't file within a certain time frame, they're fined. They could be fined X amount of dollars for X period of time, up to a maximum of $500. The bottom line, guys, is there's no teeth in this ordinance. I think, and you know, Judge and I spoke, and he was trying to remember back to 1994 when this ordinance was first came about, and it was the fact that the county had a requirement, and they wanted to get kind of with the times, I guess, and ethics issues were a big thing back then and still are today. And the ordinance was written, but I don't think anybody ever looked at how we're going to implement this ordinance. Because the other thing is, who sends this out? Every year, Stacy sends me a list of candidates or elected officials. Then she has to sit down and mail out the statement of financial disclosure. Well, then who tracks it from there? Okay, so this past year, I started tracking it, and I did quite a detailed spreadsheet of every candidate. And when they got it, I would have the clerk's office would send me a notice saying who had filed and the date. That began the clock, and we tracked it for the 21 days, and then there on beyond. Some of these went out 180 days. Okay, so that's really not doing anybody any good. The other thing is, we had 54 candidates that, that filed this past November, or for this past November's election. A lot of those candidates never made it past the primary. Okay, so the question is, do you really require somebody who's a first-time runner to even require them to file a financial disclosure statement? I mean, if they're not going to win. Plus, we had several people that never even showed up. Okay, I mean, for anything, they were on the ballot, they never put any signs out, you never saw them anywhere. So the Ethics Commission is trying to fine-tune this thing so that we can make it easier, first of all, for the court and for the county offices to implement this. Somebody's still going to have to track it, okay? And then for the county, the Ethics Commission to be able to do their job, review them, monitor them, and file them, which is what I understand our job to be. So the judge suggested that I take those comments after we had our meeting, and that we work as a commission to update the ordinance, which is what you have in front of you today. We've worked with, after we got through a bulk of it, we had our county attorney, Glenn Williams, come in. Glenn sat with us, helped us go through some of the line items, maybe why it was this way or that way, and that's what we've done. So the ordinance itself should not be a document to determine how to implement this as far as the tracking. It is an ordinance requiring that people file a financial disclosure statement within a X period of time. So that's what the ordinance has done. Somewhere along the line, whether it's Rebecca Johnson's office, I see Tracy just stepped in, or whether it's her office, or if it's how they're gonna do it, somebody needs to say, this is when the clock starts, and have a way to file that. Otherwise, the ordinance isn't gonna be meaningful. You might as well take the time limit off of it completely. So it's kind of up to you guys, but that's what it's done. That's where we're at. And if you got any other questions, go ahead and I can start answering them now.
I think, I've been through it. I did have a copy, and
Yeah.
it looks good to me, but the rest of them, until they have an
Sure.
opportunity to read it. But the ordinance is good, and it's been good for everything except this one issue. It's not like the whole thing was something wrong with it. It's just that one issue of filing the financial statement.
Had to get it.
And the nepotism and those things are
Yeah.
all still in there and still the
Right.
same. Okay, when they read it, and Tom, if you can come back
In the
to our
second-
next meeting and clarify anything, and we'll go ahead and have first reading, which we have.
Sure, not a problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
And
thank
Tom,
you.
I do agree that there is an expectation
Yeah.
from the public that we have processes in place that have consequences attached to them. So,
There is, Tom, and by the same token, there's also an expectation by the community that when you have those processes in place, that you have a mechanism to implement them, and that you've got enough teeth into the ordinance that it actually takes place. I mean, if you're not gonna sit down and fine somebody because they're not following the ordinance, why even have the fine in there? You know, I mean, let's make it to where it's practical. You know, if we say we're gonna do this, then let's do what we say we're gonna do.
and it goes straight to the heart of public service.
It does. It does. And it's, you know, it is disappointing when our, even our current elected officials, you know, sometimes don't adhere to it as tightly as they should. You know, that's not to say we never got everything, because we did. But this is the ordinance, and this was the intent of it. And maybe it's just a matter of people not, I don't know, it's not a priority, there's too many things going on, I don't know. But the idea was to make the ordinance to where it is more practical for people and easier for them to handle.
One of the things, Tom, not me now, I mean,
No.
some of the elected officials, you know, they file one every year, and then they file for election, and it's like, if I remember right, they may be filing two within
Well,
just a matter of.
You could, if you had filed between the January, July timeframe as an elected official in an off-election year, you would have filed that financial disclosure. It could be on file. But the ordinance says candidates and elected officials, okay, 21 days from after filing. So now when you come into an election year, you, even though you're currently an elected official, you also become a candidate. You have put your name in to file for election. So as a candidate, it requires 21 days.
Would, a question, because I don't have the ordinance, would it, instead of tracking when each individual candidate stated their candidacy, would it be simpler to send out that statement at the deadline, so everyone is in that nice 21-day window?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine too, sir.
Because it makes the tracking a little bit more compact as far as, you know, you don't have to track the guy in November, the guy in December. You know that here's the deadline. If we don't have it on file today, then we can send out notices. That looks like a
Right.
simpler
Sure, well,
process.
it may be, and I'm not telling you how to actually do the tracking. That'll be up to the clerk's office.
One
Okay,
thing, and
or
Amber's
someone
here,
else.
but
I'm
Tom, yeah, I think when you file to run, this is part of it, isn't it, Amber?
I said
We
Tracy
started
Amber.
in May to hand those out
Yeah.
on the day they file.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we started that this past year. We actually had it set up we had a packet, that when you went in as a candidate, you were given the packet. I cannot tell you how many phone calls I got, people said they never got the packet, I'd call Brooke up in the office, and she said, no, here it is, they signed for it. So people just got it, they did the paper, they set it aside and on the kitchen table, and it's gone. As far as, Stuart, as far as when you start the clocks, it doesn't matter to me. The 21 days from July 31st, from January 31st, which could be the last possible day.
Right.
Okay, is not the primary. And we didn't get some of these until after the primary, okay, on elected officials. So, our people that have been running, for a county office.
I'm simply trying to have the ordinance so that it makes the tracking a little bit easier. Instead of tracking each individual candidate, you would track all candidates from one date moving forward.
Yeah. And I guess my question, and we've kind of done that, Stuart. When you rewrite this, especially on page 7 of the ordinance, we know you don't have it in front of you.
Right.
We did put in there that basically, the starting point is after the primary now. Okay? So let's say you're a candidate in January, okay, and you got 3 or 4 people running for a particular office like we did this past year, okay? Only one of those guys is gonna win on that particular party, each party. Okay, so the other 3, why even mess with that? What difference is it gonna make? Why do you even need a financial disclosure in file, okay, on a candidate? But come the May primary, once it's over with, then basically you've got to July 1st to get that in, which is before the general election.
That's
Now,
what you're
Stuart, to answer
saying.
your question, it says there on subsection C, excuse me, Judge, I didn't mean to.
Don't go ahead.
Here,
And Tom's correct, says that a financial disclosure form shall be filed annually, no later than July 1. This includes elected officials, county and jointly appointed members, Scott County Treasurer Department heads. Number 2, candidates that have successfully won their primary election held in May of any given year. So you would be looking at a primary winner having that same July 1st deadline to file that disclosure form. Goes back to what you were talking about, giving a 21-day period from the last filing deadline in January. This just essentially goes after the primary from what the commission has put together until that July 1st deadline.
That's what you were talking about, Stuart.
Yeah.
That-
that may address it for you as well, sir.
I think I just need a little time to read that. Okay.
Well, let's take the time and we'll get that out. Tell David to turn his phone off.
Mike.
I knew who it was. Mike was looking at David, so.
Yeah, Stuart, I wonder though, if, I understand the procedural simplicity of only collecting the ethics statements after a primary and not requiring those who failed in the primary to fill that requirement. But it could make a difference during the primary.
Sure.
If there were,
Well-
if there were some indication on an ethics disclosure that was a
Well, first of
pretty
all,
gross conflict, could it not impact a primary election?
I mean, Tom, it's possible, but here again, there were a number of candidates that filed, that never said anything in, they didn't win their primary. We didn't go after them saying, you've gotta get this in, all right? What difference does it make? They're not gonna do it anyway. As far as the primary goes, these do not go into the file to the county clerk's office for public view until after July 1st,
Okay.
okay?
Can there be a request
So it
to
wouldn't
the
matter.
ethics? No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so it wouldn't matter anyway on the ones that didn't.
On the
win
primary, David, it would, you're right.
But can't someone make a request from the Ethics Commission to view these forms of other people?
Once the forms have been received in, and they are, I guess the Ethics Commission has reviewed them and find that they are completely filled out correctly, yeah, there could be probably a request either through the court or through, I guess direct to media that they wanna see them. I'm sure that can be, it doesn't say anything in the ordinance about it, but
I
from
mean,
a
it'd be
from a public records
freedom of
request.
information would be,
I would think so,
Yeah.
Stuart, yeah. But, in the years I've been doing this, which is what, 4 or 5 now, I've never had a single person answer anything,
Right.
okay?
And I go to Tom's point, a candidate is a candidate, whether it's in the primary or in the general. That seems to be my thought. I mean,
I don't disagree with you, but there again, now you're back into your tracking. Instead of trying to make it just the candidates to win. Okay, you're saying, okay, the 21 days, and now it goes back to Amber's group that says, okay, she or someone in the county clerk's office, or maybe it's Stacy, or maybe it's Ruby, I don't know. Somebody's gonna have to have a spreadsheet that says, this is who filed, this is the date they filed, okay? Here's the clock, 21 days later, boom, here it is.
well, that's why I was trying to move that 21-day period to the end of closing.
Well, that, regardless where you move it to.
Right.
It's still 21 days.
Right.
Okay, whether you do it at the end of closing or whether you do it, at the beginning. Somebody's still gonna have to track that. Then once that 21 days is up, somebody's gonna have to sit down and contact these people. Okay, either first notice or second notice, third. Some of them, I had 3 notices on the people. Okay, saying, please get your ordinance or your, statement of financial disclosure in. I mean, I don't know that the Ethics Commission, that was part of our charter, is to sit down and try to track all the candidates. In my conversation.
I'm not trying to put that on the.
No, I know you're not. I'm just saying, but if you're not gonna have a mechanism to handle it, and then I don't know, at that point, does it, we probably need to bring Amber's office in and say, how are you, are you guys equipped? Can you do this? How are you gonna do it? I just did it on an Excel spreadsheet. I set it out, laid it out, and went on with it.
Bill had a question.
Yes, sir.
And I understand what Mr. Hughes is looking for, to try to get them all in the same tracking timeframe.
Mhm.
But how would it benefit or hurt the Ethics Commission to get all of those in at the same time in lieu of getting them in? Because when they first come in, do you start reviewing them when they come in, or do you wait till you get them all?
No, the Ethics Commission set up on a quarterly meeting basis. During the election years, what we did is that when they first started coming, the May primary, so we start reviewing them as soon as they start coming. We'll usually call a special, just a work session, sometime in the April timeframe to review all of them. We'll do it again in the May, and we did it again in the August. Okay, we try to take care of them as they come in, especially the ones that have to be done before July 1st.
I was just thinking, if you got 54 in at the same time, you had to review them at the same time.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be great. I'd like to have that, but it's not gonna happen, Bill. Okay, I mean, we can't. Yeah, I don't, people aren't gonna send them all in, that's why they got the July 1st due date on them. They still come in after July 1st, even in non-election years.
We'll read this over and then,
Yeah, we'll make any changes. I mean, we're here
we
to
can
serve
make
you guys.
changes on second
So,
reading.
if you've got ideas to Jay, you can either send them to Stacy and she can email me and we'll go from there. We'll call another work session to update it if we need to, for the Ethics Commission. But the bottom line, guys, is that, you're gonna have an ordinance, if we're gonna follow, and to Tom's point, the citizens, we're doing this for that reason. And, we're citizen servants, basically. So let's have something that's gonna have some meaning to it. Any other questions?
It also seems, Tom, that if you are dealing with 35% of the ones you do receive have to be returned for corrections, we probably ought to do a better job of
There's a letter,
explaining. I know there's a letter.
that goes
but-
out with it, it
But
says,
that seems like an awful big workload to have to send 35% of them back
Ask
for
Stacy.
additional information.
because all I do is I turn right around, I rewrite a second notice letter. I give the list of names of Stacy, and she mails them all out. 2 or 3 times. But it is a lot, and the simple matter of it is they leave spaces blank. Okay, it says right on, do not leave anything blank. Okay?
Instead of putting NA.
Instead of putting in it. And that may seem silly on some things when a person doesn't have it, but the bottom line is, from the Ethics Commission, you're filling that out, and I don't know your financial background. And if you don't put anything in there, I don't know if you missed it as a question, or if you chose not to answer it, thinking no one will ever question it. Now, if you put on there NA, then you basically have put and signed it and had it notarized that I do not have that particular item, property or whatever. But, so we don't know that, so we have to send it back and request that. Yeah.
Judge, I will mail everyone's copies out today. I'll take the hit.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies.
We've got a motion and a second, or we don't have, we do need a motion and a second for first reading. We have a motion and a second for that.
So moved.
Mr. Prather? Mr. Tackett, any questions? That's understood, we can make changes. All right, all in favor?
Judge, I'm gonna abstain
Okay.
till I get a copy.
The work session next week, or the first Friday in December, I think 3 people said they couldn't be here.
2 of us, I know.
2.
Mr. Lyons and myself.
I can't be here.
You
3.
can't?
There's
So,
3. There's 3.
I think we can just cancel it if that suits the court. We need a motion in to cancel the workshop.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, we'll cancel it. And then we need to reschedule the second meeting in December unless you want to come on Christmas Day.
Get you away from family for a while.
What I would like is have it on, what's that, Wednesday? Tuesday, the 23rd. And at 9 o'clock. Just be the last meeting for several here. And we do need to meet to pay bills though, and any other business. So. if
The
that-
other option was Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve was another option, and so that's why we said the 23rd. All right, we need a motion then, if that Bill,
Second.
David, all in favor? Okay, that will be the 23rd at 9 o'clock.
So we'll still have our regular meeting on.
Have the regular meeting at the regular time, yeah. We have 2 more meetings. That's all the items that I have on the agendas. David?
Good morning. I just, first of all, want to say how thankful I was that our crew came out of the accident last week with a few bumps and bruises, and thanks to the county fire department that was right behind them, that was first on the scene. I don't have an estimate, but I did go out and take several photographs yesterday. There's quite a bit of interior damage to the unit. Apparently it rolled 3 times, so, but that's why we buy what we do. So I would like to maybe get some prices and at least look at what we can do to replace that unit. That was the 2012 Chevrolet accident or ambulance. So
Has the adjuster been out, David?
I think he's been out. I've not seen any paperwork
Yeah,
yet.
well,
We got the accident report, so.
we're gonna have to wait until, see what he's, or she says, but,
But we will need to replace that unit, so
well,
just want to make the court aware of
He
that.
verbally said it was total, but I don't have it in writing.
yeah.
Okay.
It's a 2012?
Mhm. So. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mike?
Judge Ludwig, members of the court, I just seeking promotion. I'm seeking to be able to speak this morning, I guess. Seeking permission to, I don't know what I'd get promoted to, but anyway, we need to put out a hiring list. Our hiring list is expired. We're not hiring anybody. We're not short anybody. I just want to get permission to go on and start the process, which is a fairly lengthy process with all the testing, and get our list together like we do every year, just in case we have to hire.
How long does that list last, Mike?
A year.
A
We
year.
keep it for a year.
Yeah.
And so we do this yearly. It slipped up on me and I forgot about it. It's gonna be a while before we meet, and we do need to start the process, we do a written test, an oral interview, a physical agility, and then they gotta have a state physical agility. So it takes quite a while to get all this rounded up, compiled, and on the list. And like I say, we're not short anybody at the time. We just need to get the list.
Motion to allow the chief to do that.
David, second. All in favor? Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Livingston, anything for the good of the order? Mr. Prather?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Nothing, thank you.
No, sir.
Lynn?
Nothing on.
Anybody? There's no further business. Stand adjourned.